Hello. Whether you are in or out, it's simply a matter of time before all employers will have implemented a workplace pension scheme. My name is Emily de Cosimo, and over the next few minutes, I hope to show you that help is at hand. There's lots of material out there describing what you should do and the penalties if you don't. Of course, understanding your obligations is an important first step, but knowing what is not the same as knowing how to do it. At Auto-Enroll Now, we've put together this video to show you that it doesn't have to be a nightmare. You don't have to read all the technical manuals or research every provider in the market to implement a scheme. By simplifying the process, we've learned how to help employers prepare for their staging dates and avoid frustration. We know that your time is precious, and anything that takes you away from your business usually costs time and money. So Michael, workplace pensions are not a new idea, and a lot of companies will already have their own pension arrangements in place. So what's wrong with keeping these going?
Well, there's nothing wrong at all in keeping them going, as long as the schemes meet certain minimum criteria laid down by the pensions regulator. What we need to be sure is that the schemes comply, and if they are fine, then the regulator wants the schemes to be certified at least every 18 months to make sure that they remain compliant.
Okay, and how can employers find out which scheme is the best for their particular organisation?
Well, there's no such thing as the best scheme. All the current pension providers at the moment will offer auto-enrolment schemes. They compete on charges, service levels, and some even have minimum numbers of employees in the scheme. But there are 3 companies at the moment that only offer auto-enrolment schemes, and they probably deserve a mention because nobody will have heard of them. They're Nest, the People's Pension, and Now Pensions. They only provide auto-enrolment schemes.
Okay. Every employer in the country has to implement a workplace pension scheme sooner or later. Well, how do they know how to start making the necessary preparations?
Right. Well, basically the pension regulator will send a letter out to every employer 1 year before their staging date. Now, sometimes it's conceivable that the employer may have lost the letter or the letter didn't arrive. That doesn't really matter because you can establish your staging date by looking at your PAYE reference number, and that will tell you when you're due to start.
So Michael, when did it all start, and how comes that some companies have already started?
Well, the original staging dates were calculated by reference to the 1st of April 2012. How many people were employed at that time by each employer? So the large companies obviously started straight away, and as the number of employees is reduced over a period of time, the smaller companies will be staging later on. Now, if a company didn't exist on the 1st of April 2012 and just comes on stream between 2012 and now, for example, they will be staging in 2018.
And does every employee have to join a scheme? Is it compulsory?
Well, recommended. It's a great idea for everybody to be enrolled into a scheme. And to start off with, all employees are automatically enrolled into a scheme. But of course, they do have the option to opt out within a certain amount of time.
So how does an employer decide what level of contribution to make for their members?
Well, the pensions regulator has laid down a minimum level of contributions for a scheme to be eligible, and the calculations are based on pensionable earnings, and pensionable earnings are a concept that says all earnings between a minimum level and an upper level, which obviously changes each year. That's one method, but employers can also adopt other ways of calculating their contributions based on 3 other levels or tiers, and depending on what suits their circumstances best.
And when the employer has worked out who is eligible to join and their level of contributions, so how does enrolment then actually happen?
Well, there are really two stages to the process. First of all, the employer has to contract with the provider to enter into a formal agreement that says that they will provide the information on time and in a prescribed format and pay the contributions across. So that's an actual formal agreement. When that's done, the provider will deliver internet protocols to allow the transfer of information across. The main thing is that the information can be transferred at any time to suit the employer's availability of time. Now, when the protocol is entered into, it works through the middleware software that's sitting on the employer's system. When the data has been verified and uploaded, it triggers a process whereby the provider will write to every employee an automatic personal letter that says when the employer scheme is going to automatically enrol them, what level of contributions will be made, and also what their responsibilities are. Of course, it also details when, if an employee wants to opt out, how they should do that.
How does the regulator know that the scheme has been set up?
Well, once a scheme is running, the regulator expects every employer to register that scheme within 4 months of the staging date.
Right, okay. So Michael, it seems that over 100,000 employers will be reaching their staging dates very soon. I mean, every quarter, isn't it? From the end of 2016 right through to 2017. How do you think, in your opinion, the providers will cope?
Well, most of those employers will have less than 50 job holders. So that means they probably won't have access to their own HR department or even a dedicated payroll team. So they're going to need to work out their audit on their own. Some will want to be contacting the provider, and some will be dealing with their usual advisors in these pension matters. But of course, with so many companies wanting to enrol at the same time, it's very likely there could be some serious issues with regard to reaching the employer department necessary, getting the information that they want on time. And there could be serious issues with that, not only for the providers, but also for consultancy organisations such as ourselves, who will be put upon to answer questions at the last minute.
So there you have it. By the end of 2014, the first wave of staging letters will be arriving on the doormats of small enterprises employing less than 50 job holders. This could be a wake-up call to start thinking about how to embrace new legislation. Employers can develop their own audit using the source documents available in the public domain, or they could consult their usual advisors. Adopting a new scheme will require resources of time and money, but engaging the services of dedicated consultancies such as AUTOENROL, those costs can be significantly reduced. More importantly, by pre-engaging well ahead of your staging date, you'll be sure to avoid the potential difficulties caused by any capacity crunch, which suddenly could present itself.